Okay, I guess we can start. So first, I would like to welcome everyone that has joined this session. And this is the second session of the two sessions we had about metaphor identification. And this session, we're going to, let's say, analyze FILMIP in action. So we have Dr. Lorena Bortmir here with us. And yes, so she would start and would give you the necessary information for this session. Thanks, everyone.
See, I have it looking here. Yes. Okay, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be here again and also to have this opportunity to explore with you how the method works. Um, yeah, in the first session, we discussed we explore how the study of metaphor has evolved since the 80s with Lakoff and Johnson's conceptual metaphor theory. And we also dealt with the multimodal side of metaphor in other means of communication, not just in language. And this is precisely where FILMIP fits, the method that I developed in my PhD. I'm going to share my screen. See. Okay. Okay. Is that so? Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, so this is the plan that I have for today's talk. I will present the steps of the method, try to explain how they work, and then we will have two analyses of two TV commercials. One in which the method gives a positive result for metaphoricity, and another one in order to see how the method stops when there is no metaphorical elements in a movie. And then I have prepared two more videos so that you are able to kind of apply the method by yourselves. Not very extensive, just I have prepared a short version of the method for you to apply here today, and then we can comment on those results. Okay. So as we saw the other day, metaphors do not happen just in language. It also happens in other means of communication. And this is the focus of today. So I wanted to explore how metaphors work in films, and I had this challenge because there were metaphors existed to explore and identify metaphors in language, as you know, MIP and MIPO. There was also a method for the identification of metaphorical elements in still pictures, but there was nothing about movies, so I had to develop it if I wanted to do research that was empirical and scientific. So that's what I did in my PhD. And the most important thing to start with the method is to remark the interdisciplinarity of the procedure, because it merges four different fields of study. It merges metaphor studies, multimodality, film theory as well, and discourse analysis. So in the steps that we are going to present today, you will see how these four areas of study are merged in the method. The method is, I would say that it's developed and detailed to enable other researchers interested in identifying metaphors in films to use it effectively, even though the procedure is primarily designed to identify metaphorical elements in films. The initial phase one, is also applicable to a wide range of analysis in different fields of study. We could talk about communication scholars, film studies, discourse analysis, argumentation, multimodal communication, etc. So I think that this versatility facilitates precisely the interdisciplinary research and enhances also analytical rigor across diverse academic domains. Within films, The cinematic narrative unfolds through a multitude of cinematic techniques and artistic decisions. We also commented on the different modes of communication in movies the other day. And it is within the cinematic narrative that metaphors emerge, whether consciously or subconsciously sometimes, and they are merged thanks to this orchestration of the filmic modes by the film director. And in light of this, FILMIP undertakes, in the steps that it has, undertakes a comprehensive exploration of the whole cinematic text, through which two distinct analytical approaches are there, dividing the metaphor identification process in the two phases that you can see. Phase one is the content analysis. This phase is the one that could be used in any means of discourse analysis, whether you are a film scholar or a metaphor scholar, it doesn't matter, because it entails a content analysis, a deep content analysis of any kind of movie or video. And the second phase is concise to the metaphor identification procedure. So, as you can see, there are 5 steps. I have been reviewing the method so that we here see the new improved version of the method that is in press. Before this, the method contains 7 steps, but I have restructured it so that it's kind of easier for scholars to apply it, because the first step was the most complicated one and complex. Because as we saw also the other day, the description of each filmic mode is very complex. So I have tried to kind of make it brief so that scholars apply it better. We will see all those steps in detail. So the first step entails the general understanding of what we are perceiving on the screen, which might be thought as something easy, but if we are intended to analyze scientifically or empirically a video, we must establish a rigor in the steps that we perform. So the first step within the general understanding is to describe the referential meaning, which means to describe what we literally see on the screen, what we see and what we listen, okay? So everything that we perceive has to be described kind of literally. Then, well, this is the most complex substep, but then we would go into the identification of abstract meaning, which means any kind of symbolism or cultural issue or anything that we see, that we perceive that it's not literal, that it's there in the video because of something else, we must identify and describe it. Then we proceed with the reconstruction of the message, which is, what is the point that the filmmaker, in the case of a TV commercial, for instance, what is the point? What is the message of this? And then finally, we must identify the topic. The topic in TV commercials has been related always with the product or the service advertised. So message and topic are not the same things, as we will see. And here, in order to describe the referential meaning, we must first assess the content. And FILMIP established that watching the Filmic video 5 consecutive times could be enough. And it serves as a kind of preparatory viewing, because the more times that we see something, that we see a movie or a video clip or whatever, the more things we perceive. So we need an extended period of immersion in order to proceed with the following steps. 5 consecutive times is okay. It also depends on the length of the filmic piece that we are analyzing. If we are analyzing a whole movie, maybe 5 consecutive times is too much. But if we are working with smaller pieces, then it's okay. Obviously, if you need more times, it is obvious that you can do that. It doesn't necessarily have to be 5, okay? Then We must identify the units of analysis. In MIP and MIPU, the unit of analysis is the word. But in movies, it was quite a difficult issue to explore. And we have decided that it is the interaction of three structural Filmic units, which are the sequence, the scene, and the shot. And they are working all together to express the meaning and the narrative. So we must like segment each shot within each scene and within each sequence. A sequence is a detailed as a is delineated as a cohesive portion of a film that either pertains to a singular event or exhibits a distinct stylistic quality. So whenever we see a whole event in a segment, that would be understood as a sequence. Something that happens in the same time, that would be a sequence. Then since, well, sequences are longer, scenes are a little bit shorter, they are identifiable when a series of events occur within the same setting or the same time frame. And then the shot is the last one, is the shortest one, and I identify them as each filmic cut. Whenever there is a cut in the event, in the sequences of the event, that is a shot. So it's the smallest piece of filmic segments that you can encounter. So how to do this? How to segment each movie? Well, I wish there was an automated tool. Maybe there is one, and I haven't. I'm not aware of it. But even though it would be nice to have an automated tool that segmented each movie, you have to do it by yourself. Okay, so even counting one cut, another cut, another cut, and this is a scene that works for us. So that's the only thing, the only way that we have right now to do it. Then once we have segmented the video into the different parts that it has, we have to go on with the description of identification and description of each communicative mode. And I guess that is quite small, but as you can see, there are 4 different types of languages that we have identified in movies: spoken language, body language, visual language, and the filmic language per se. So within the spoken language, we must identify whether in the movie or in the clip there is a dialogue or a monologue, if there are voices overs and off. The tone of voice is also important because it may represent some symbolism or something abstract. Pauses and silences are also very meaningful. Within the body language, we have to analyze the gestures, the gaze, the movements of the head, all the facial expressions that we see. Also the body posture and the proxemics, which means how close or far we are from the screen. Within the visual language, we have to analyze if there is any written language. In movies, it's strange to find written language, but in TV commercials, it's quite common. So we must analyze it, the typography that it has, because the typography also carries meaning, the colors, the graphics, any icons, and also the salient objects. And finally, within the filmic language, we must go into the filmmaker's options, the types of shots, the camera movements, whether it's tilt or horizontal movements, the angle, the mise-en-scène. With this, I mean how the characters are dressed, for instance, or the setting. Lighting is very important in movies, light and dark. Music, as we also saw the other day, that could be very metaphorical. And lately, sound effects and visual effects, video effects, because maybe not in movies or not in TV ads, but in all kinds of videos that people are designing for TikTok or YouTube or whatever, there are lots of sound effects and video effects. So they must be also taken into consideration for a method that analyzes movies. or filmic materials. So once we identify and describe everything, every little thing that we perceive on the screen, we can proceed with a description of the referential meaning. Okay? In a single sentence, the most simple that we can. For example, a man with a sad face walking on a busy street. If there is music, we can also say which kind of music it is, but nothing more complicated than that. Once we have this simple description of what's going on in the shot or in the scene, we can then move on to the description of the abstract meaning. And how do we match the literal meaning with the abstract meaning? Thanks to the description of the modes, because it will be everything that you have analyzed in the modes that will tell you the abstract meaning. The colors, for instance, or the music or the sounds will tell you if there is something symbolic that has to do with something else that is not literal there. And as we said before, then we must reconstruct the message and identify the topic. Within the identification of the topic, while the topic provides like the general context or the theme, the message conveys the specific meaning or the specific interpretation that the filmmakers intend to communicate. So it's a different. Then in the second step, we have to identify incongruous filmic elements. And incongruity has been defined as a moment of puzzlement caused by the experience of metaphor as a semantic problem. So in films, there is also a moment of puzzlement, okay? But it demands a much more complicated process again, because there are a lot of things going on in a movie. Because we have visual, but also auditory input. So every analyst should decide for each filmic element, which is for each shot, scene, and sequence, whether it shows properties, and also for each mode, whether it shows properties that are incongruous with the properties that are typically true to that component, which is called property incongruous, whether it shows any incongruity related to the topic or the message that have been identified in the first step, or whether there is any incongruity within each of the identified filmic modes, which is called modal incongruous. And this means, for instance, if we see a cat, but the cat is barking, we know that cats don't bark, right? It is dogs that bark. So that would be the strange thing, the moment of puzzlement. What is going on here? Cats don't bark. So it will be, in this case, property incongruous, because cats don't bark. They don't own the property of barking. They own another property, but not barking in this case. Once we have identified those elements that are like strange, that do not that they are kind of showing puzzlement, we must identify which is the comparison. What and how to compare. So here we identify the target and the source domains of the metaphor. We have to know the identity relation that is constructed between the two phenomena, the target and the source domain. And we have an example with the movie Love Me Tonight. There is a Parisian tailor here who travels to a small village to collect a debt, and he ends up falling in love with a princess. So through a series of musical numbers and comedic mishaps, the tailor and the princess find their way to each other despite the different social statuses. There are two scenes in this movie in which we can see the princess aunts leaving a room, and they are like very scared or I don't know, they are kind of shouting, but instead of shouting, the sound that we listen, it's similar to the barking of small dogs. So in this case, we are comparing people, human beings, with dogs. It is similar to the example of the cat that I said before. In this case, we have people, human beings, and dogs. Those would be the comparison, the two domains of the metaphor. And this moves on to the fourth step. We must test whether those two elements belong to different domains. Okay, and sometimes it is very obvious and it's easy, of course, that dogs are not human beings, so they belong to different domains. But other times it's not that easy. Sometimes we see a comparison of love and friendship, for instance, and here the boundaries are not that clear. So as we are scientists and we are performing empirical analysis, we have to find a tool or a way that tells us everybody, yes, this belongs to different domains, and this is where the tool WordNet takes place. It is a tool developed by the University of Princeton. It's a big database of English words. Maybe you know it, that are grouped according to their meanings. So how does it work? We have the two elements of the metaphor, the comparison. In the case that, in the example that I said, we have human beings and dogs. So we would write here human beings, search, click on the inherited hypernym, and we will look at the first three meanings. We would do the same with dog. We would write dog, search WordNet, click on inherited hypernym, and we will look at the first three meanings. If the first three layers of meaning from dog and human beings are not the same, are different things, then we can scientifically say that that comparison is cross-domain, that those two things belong to different cognitive domains. If one of them or the three of them are similar or the same, then the comparison is not cross-domain and the method would stop. It means that there is no metaphor there. Okay, so that is the tool that we are using. So how is this step like summarized? Well, when there is when it is very obvious that the two different domains of the metaphor or the comparison, because we are not still talking about metaphor, if the two different domains of the comparison are completely different and it's obvious, you don't need to use WordNet every single time. But when there is a doubt, this is a tool that will tell you, yes, those are different domains or not. And then the last step leads you to the final decision, and it is very simple. If steps 3 and 4 are positive, which means that if we have a comparison of two different domains, and if those two different domains belong to different, if those domains are different, then we would mark that clip as metaphorical. Otherwise, it would be non-metaphorical. Okay, so that's how it works. And I'm going to give you an example. We analyzed this with different analysts using the method, and the result was positive towards metaphoricity. I'm going to put it on. It's from a perfume, Black Opium. Okay, This is a short version of the commercial that was analyzed by the different analysts. The long version was more into the two domains that I'm going to talk about. There is also a moment in which we see the pupil of the eye that is dilating, and that is a huge cue, as we will see. So we have seen the commercial in this case just once because we are in the workshop, and we must go through the first sub-step in which we have to describe the literal thing, okay, the referential meaning. We projected the video 5 consecutive times when we analyzed it. Then we cut and segmented the video into each shot. It sequences scenes and shots. This is an example of how we did it. Also with the timing so that everything is clear for everybody. Then we performed the analysis of the mode in each shot and in each scene. And this is how we did it. We identified and described the music and also the lyrics that was heard within each shot, also the visuals, the colors, in this case, black, the kinematic elements, the camera movements, the perspective, the close-ups, the types of shots, the gestures, the facial expressions, everything. There is an example of the scene that I was telling you before. Also the music, in this case, the colors are blue and black, kinematic elements, the perspective, the type of shot in this case is extreme close-up because we only see the eye very big. And what's going on? We have a pupil that is dilating. We did all this process throughout all the single shots, and then we describe the referential meaning in each of the scenes. If anybody has, I don't know, kind of difficulty in a single simple sentence summarizing what's going on in a shot, we have a tool that is called the structured annotation tool that works very well for this because it allows you and guides you towards how to describe simply and yeah, very simple anything. In this case, they constructed a tool for still pictures, but it also works well for movies. So we identify the setting, the people, the object, the subject, and where, what happens. So in this case, lady in black searching desperately for something in a room and a wardrobe. And in another scene, I with people bleeding. Very simple. Then we'll have to move to the second substep. Once we have described everything, segmented, the modes, and the literal thing, we move on to the abstract meaning. So here we have several cues. We have a lady looking desperately for something everywhere. We have a pupil dilating. We have the song that talks about love. There is another scene in which there are circular stairs in the tunnel, but we listen to My Head is a Jungle. So all these cues may imply that she's looking for a kind of drug. The pupil dilating is like the big cue here, okay? Because that only happens when you get drugged. So that could be also the how the lady is acting, desperately looking for something in the streets, in the room of the hotel, everywhere. So these two things can be put together and they may be implying that she's looking for a kind of drug. Also, the name of the perfume tells us so, but if the perfume was called something different, these cues are there. So we move on to the reconstruction of the message. We take the literal thing that has been described. We take the symbolisms that we have identified, and we could say something like this. Perfume black opium is seductively addictive as a drug. You will not be able to live without it. Something like that. And as I said before, the topic in TV commercials is always a product. So in this case, selling perfume black opium. And we would move to the second step. We must find filmic incongruous filmic components. In this case, the moment of puzzlement is obviously a woman desperately looking for something, because this is an ad of a perfume, and the reaction of that woman has nothing to do with perfumes. The pupil dilating has nothing to do with perfumes. And also the very fast camera movements, the circular stairs, the dark tunnel, and the part of the song My Head is a Jungle has nothing to do with an ad, with a perfume ad. So we could identify those modes, those filmic elements as incongruous with perfumes. Incongruity by comparison, step 3, the replacing element for the action, for the state of the mind of the woman, and for her physical reactions, the pupil dilating, would be the whole event of drug addiction. Then we must test the cross domain, and we have searched, well, even though perfumes and drugs are not the same, we have also searched for that in WordNet. And for perfume, we have the domain of smell, sensation, and perception. And for drug, we have agent, causal agent, and physical entity. So as none of the three senses from perfume and drug are the same, we could say that yes, this comparison is cross domain. So yes, as steps 3 and 4 are positive, the commercial could be marked for metaphorecity. And then this is the other example in which the method stops because there is no metaphor identified. Domain of adventure.
I find myself in an exhilarating journey. The scent of adventure in the air, leading me further and further into the realms of the extraordinary. Every smell, every sight, every step pushed me forwards, until I found myself in a place where I saw something magnificent. I saw my life in a whole new light. Davidoff Adventure, the new fragrance for men.
Okay, let's move to the application of the method again. We project the video 5 times for the analysis. We identify one sequence, which means the whole TV ad, within 11 scenes, different settings, and 29 shots. Then in the description of the mode, this is just an example, we find written discourse here. Ewan McGregor is like the main actor, and capital letters in white. David of Adventure, the name of the perfume, capital letters in black. Spoken discourse has been also identified. The calm voice that he has. The music, even though I couldn't heard it here, instrumental, appropriated, and non-diegetic, which means that the song already existed when the clip was made and they took it for the clip. Non-diegetic means that it can be heard from an outside. It doesn't belong to the narrative. Within visuals, in the colors, we have greens, browns, the blues from the sky. Kinematic elements, we have the camera movements. In this case, the camera is static. We have pans, tilts, we have zooms, we have an aerial view, and other times we have the centered point of view and frontal angle. The silent objects that we can see are the bottle of perfume in several shots, the stick bag in another shot, and images and icons, a bottle of perfume. So the literal thing that we see is actor Ewan McGregor going on a trip by himself with his motorcycle in the mountains with a backpack and a bottle of perfume as his own luggage. Okay, that kind of describes the whole clip. Let's move on to the description of more abstract meaning. Apparently, there is no more abstract meaning found. We have analyzed all the modes, And the colors are the colors of nature, greens and browns, which coincides also with the color of the perfume, which is brown. We have an actor engaging in an adventure, a real adventure, a physical one. He goes into the mountains by himself with his motorcycle. The perfume is called Adventure, so everything coincides. Nothing abstract is found. The message is Perfume David of Adventure is for adventurous men. If you want to be adventurous like Ewan McGregor, you should use his perfume. Something like that could be understood as a message. And again, the topic is selling perfume David of Adventure. Okay, and the second step would be identify this moment of puzzlement, this element that is incongruous, that is kind of strange. And in this case, there is no strange thing regarding adventures and the perfume. Everything fits into the message of having an adventure wearing the perfume. So there is no comparison, and there is not cross-domain, and there is no metaphorical elements identified here. The method would stop in this second step because there is nothing strange identified in the movie. That's how the method works for the identification of metaphors, whether there is a metaphor or there is no metaphor at all. Okay, and before doing this part, maybe we could have we could move on with this second part of the workshop. I know now that there is no possibility of doing this in groups. It's okay. We have two different commercials. Do we have enough time? Yes. We have two different commercials, and I want to share with you. Just a second. I'm going to share with you in the chat. I have a document. Well, if I cannot put it in the chat, I will copy paste the links of the clips just in case somebody wants to watch them in their computers, and also a brief version of the method just for this workshop, okay? It's in the chat. So we will just describe what we see literally, then we will identify any symbolisms that we are able to see. The message, the topic in this case, the topic in this case is the perfume, in the case of the perfume, or a magnum, an ice cream, a popsicle, in the case of the first one. I haven't been allowed to copy paste the whole text. Sorry for that. So step 1.4. So step 1.4, okay. And then we have now the second part with the links, okay? In the chat. So now I'm going to share again. And we will watch this commercial. Probably it's not that good. Pardon me, will you have the links?
Get ready for the greatest heist in history.
Anyway, we can find 75 million pieces of gold.
75 million?
From the director of The Usual Suspects, X-Men, and Valkyrie. Academy Award winner Benicio del Toro and Caroline Correa. They are not just the perfect couple. They are the perfect couple of thieves.
Let me guess. You're gonna be late?
This summer. Nothing will be what it it seems.
You know about all this? Great. You know about all this.
New Magnum Gold, Madagascar vanilla, and sea salt caramel covered in golden dipped milk chocolate.
How are we gonna take all this home? Think about it. Let me bite. Feed. You couldn't wait for one more day.
New Magnum
Okay. So if we can come to the steps and the instructions that I haven't given you in the chat, or maybe everything is so obvious that you don't need to go on through the steps, we can comment what you think here, which are the two domains of the metaphor. If there is a metaphor, maybe not. So please feel free to comment, discuss, say anything that you think about this commercial in this case. And of course, if there are questions about the method or anything, you are also welcome to express them.
Yes, and beside that, you can raise your hand and talk if that suffices.
I'm not sure.
So I guess I have an idea for this. I'm not sure whether it's right or wrong. I think we can say that, okay, so, the ice creams are as valuable as gold bars, and they are, somewhere hidden in a vault, and they have to, I don't know, pull a heist to, to steal these, ice creams. And so we can say that, I don't know, that these two, like ice creams or Magnum Gold is like a gold bar. It's as valuable as that, tastes as good as that. And also, by having that, you're happy and you have, I don't know, a great life, the perfect couple and something like that. Yeah. I
Yeah, that's
guess.
precisely that. Yeah. Very good, very good. So in this case, it is so obvious that we don't need to apply the method. That's what I wanted, because in the second commercial that we will see, it's not that obvious, and so maybe there are more doubts. But in this case, yes, we have the gold thing and the ice cream, and they are completely compared throughout all the commercial. So yeah,
Yes.
that will be the incongruity in this case. And obviously, ice cream and gold would have different sexes in WordNet, so it's cross domain. And yes, that would be the result. Right. I think there are more questions in the chat.
Yes, we have them. Can you see them, or do you want me to read them?
I think I see them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody wants to have a Magnum right now. Okay, the last one. We could apply the analysis to the whole video, but in this case, as it was quite visual, because there is the gold thing, they are robbing a bank, and there is the popsicle, the ice cream. I think that there was no need to apply the method. But yeah, in the second example that I'm going to to show right away, you will need to apply at least some of the steps. And even though you apply them, there will be different results. Okay. Any other questions or doubts or? We can move on to the second example. Sorry, when I play the videos, do you listen to the music as well or just the spoken discourse? Because I'm not able to listen to the music. I don't know if it's my connection. Okay, perfect. If you listen to the music, that's good because there is a song in the next video and it's important. The lyrics are important. Okay, let's move on to the second one. This is a perfume ad, Agua Fresca de Rosas from Adolfo Dominguez. Let's see. The girl's to walk, she's on the prowl. For the man she loved, he cut her down.
Agua Fresca de Rosas, Adolfo Domínguez.
Very short, right? Maybe we can watch it one more. The girl's to walk, she's on the prowl. For the man she loved, he cut her down.
Agua Fresca de Rosas, Adolfo Domínguez.
Okay. Let's discuss what you have here. Okay. Sorry, I don't want to. For the man. And stop it here. A few seconds before. That's the shot. Okay. Let's continue with the discussion. The meaning of the name is Fresh Roses Water. The name of the perfume, Fresh Roses Water. Yes. Okay, we have a question.
Yes, am I audible?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So I believe the most obvious metaphor in this whole video was the flowers and how they were floating in water like fish, and so she used a net to grab some of them out of the water. What I do not understand about the whole video is why is she dressed and why is she inside a boat that looks like some sort of an Egyptian boat? Where's the connection on that?
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting because even though this commercial is very short and it seems simple, roses, water, perfume, that's it. There are lots and lots of elements. The type of boat, I didn't analyze it, but you are so right in this case. We understood, or well, yeah, we identified that the way she's dressed is like a Greek goddess or something like that. And yes, the roses like fish, that's like the central cue in the commercial and in the metaphor. Let's see if there are other symbolisms or abstractions that you identify. I'm going to look at the chat. Let's see, the liquidity of the perfume could be yes. The choice of pace and the race. Well, this is a Spanish brand, a Spanish perfume. She is a Spanish model, so maybe that's why they picked up this race in her. Yes, we will have another look at the whole clip.
The girls to watch, she's on the prowl for the man she loved. He cut her down and
Agua fresca de rosas. Adolfo Domínguez.
Here we have the bottle of perfume. That is a salient object in this case. Obviously, because it's a perfume ad and they always show the bottle somewhere in the air towards the end of the ad. The features smelly, but there she is fishing fragrant roses from the sea like fish. Yes. Roses are in the sea. Roses are never in the sea. It is fish who are in the sea. So that is the incongruity, the main one in this case. Fish and roses, but why? Fish. I mean, she's throwing the net to the sea and fishing the roses. And what about the song? Were you able to listen to the lyrics of the song? Any connection with that? No, the smell of fish is not really good at all. Yeah, the lyrics are in English, and the lyrics talk about she had a breakup with her love with a man, I guess. They have a breakup. They are not a couple anymore, and now it is interesting because it is in the very moment when she throws the net into the sea to fish. The lyrics say, yeah, exactly. The lyrics say, for the love she loved, and she's no. When there is that moment that she throws the net, the lyrics say, she is on the prowl, which means she goes to look for something, to catch something. In this case, roses that are fish. Okay, we have somebody raising his hand, okay?
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think, as well as hunter metaphors, which are available here, I think we're facing a kind of intertextuality too. It's not only a boat. At the first confrontation, it brought to my mind that it is a kind of ship, and it is no shapes that prophet shapes, and the sea. And we have two kind of kinematic elements, high angle and low angle of that ship.
Which kinematic, sorry?
I mean the low angle and high angle,
Okay.
which we contrasted.
Yes, the first one in which we see it very small, like we are the eyes of God or something, and then
Exactly.
the close one. Yes, exactly. Yes. This is called the aerial shot, the first one, and a close-up shot. Covered. Yeah, you're right. Another comment about in a sea, a metaphor for loneliness could be that they have used like she's alone on a single boat on a sea or a lake, we don't know. Could be a metaphor for loneliness. Yes, but also because that is the lyrics of the song. Without the lyrics of the song, it will be quite difficult to identify like the reasons why she is looking for a new love, or that she has broken up with her lover. So maybe, yeah, I think that's a good metaphor for loneliness, the sea. But anybody connect the fish, the roses, and finding a new lover? And this is very, very interesting because here we have the intercultural analysis. And yeah, I really loved it. I also, with Mariana Bolognesi, I performed an intercultural analysis with American students, North American students, Spanish students, and students from Iran. And they didn't identify the same kinds of metaphors because there are cultural differences here. In Spain, we have a lot of idioms and expressions that talk about if you are sad because you have broken up with your boyfriend, then you have to go out and fish. Lots of expressions about that. And as this is a Spanish word, maybe it implies that she is looking for a new lover. When she puts on the perfume, she goes out there and fish. A new lover, obviously, not fish, no roses. Oh, you have this expression in Persian as well. Good. Good. That will be amazing to explore those expressions in this particular act in other cultures and see what happens there. That's the beauty of all this. To net somebody, yes. Also, we say, don't worry, there are more fishes in the sea. You just have to look for another one. So it's really obvious in our case. The fishes in the sea are new men or new women in the case of, yeah. However, this was not that clear. Obviously, now that we are explaining, yes. Yeah, that explains why she is dressed like a Greek goddess, because she is in the prow of a new lover. So she has to be dressed, feeling great. Yeah, many interpretations as well, because of the sea and the boat. And I was about to say that it's really important, the first step when we analyze every single detail in the description of the modes, that's crucial, because at first, we did not understand the lyrics of the song. And we were analyzing it like, yeah, she's fishing the roses from the sea, the roses are the perfume smells like roses. But it was only when we identified and wrote down the lyrics of the song, we matched suddenly. She's on the prowl, throwing the net in the very moment that the song says she's on the prowl for the man she loved. So they are talking about a different thing. So sometimes the lyrics of the song, or a slight color, or something very slight, gives you the big cue for the metaphor. That's why it's so important to perform the first analysis of the modes. And it's the most complicated or extensive step from the procedure. Sometimes you might think, this is awful. There are so many elements. Why do I have to write down everything? Precisely because of that. Because you never know, once you analyze everything, if there was something else that you didn't identify at first. That's why it's so important to go on with all the steps. Why the sea is so empty? Yeah, she's alone. She's alone because she broke up with her boyfriend. So that might be true, the metaphor that somebody commented before. The sea, she's alone, and the boat because she is lonely. That's why she needs to fish for a new lover, using the perfume, of course. Any other comments on the clip or ideas? Cultural differences, maybe, that we haven't identified. When I say we, I mean me as a Spanish person and Mariana as an Italian one. Okay. That's a very good point, that the loneliness in the commercial is associated with the exclusiveness of the perfume. Yeah. Do the commercial metaphors have to be more direct than those in a movie? More direct, more creative, and yeah, I was about to say more potent, but yeah, more creative and direct, of course. It's also interesting that it doesn't necessarily mean that you, as the spectator of the commercial, have to understand, there is a metaphor there. Obviously not. Okay, it depends on the expertise of the people who watch a commercial or a movie. You don't have to see there is a metaphor for the metaphor to exist. Okay, that is a total different thing. But yeah, commercials have more creative metaphors than direct. Also, other questions or comments or suggestions for the method to be improved, or I don't know if some of you have used any other method to analyze movies or metaphors. We can have a very good discussion on that. I am also working on the new version of the method, so if you have any ideas or maybe comments, even though you can also criticize it, that is welcome, to refine it and make it a better one. I think I can stop sharing. Because that was the last part that I have planned for the workshop. I planned it to do it in groups so that you could apply it. And in that case, we would have needed more time. Then here's another comment. The ancient dress of both, the antiquity of the spell and the sailor having a long history. Yes. Also, it's kind of the most antique and basic, which doesn't mean simple, smell, the rose for a perfume. Do we pay attention to non-linguistic elements? What about linguistic elements? You mean in this commercial? We also analyzed the written discourse, which is in this case the linguistic elements, and also the lyrics, which is also linguistic elements. We took all those linguistic elements into account as well. Culture is very important, yes, of course. Yeah, culture is essential, I think, in all kinds of analysis. In our case, as discourse analysis, we cannot take it out from anything that we do. So that's why in the step in which you have to look for abstract meaning, you have to look for symbolisms, but not only in your culture. Other things that you perceive could be understood completely different in another culture. That's why interdisciplinary groups are really needed to do this kind of analysis. And it's so enriching. I really love it. That's why I chose this commercial for today, because I knew that it was kind of tricky, and there are differences that must be addressed.
Sorry, I had a question myself. May I ask? Sure. I wanted to say that beside, let's say, when we are looking for metaphors, what other sorts of dimensions can we add to it, or let's say planes of understanding, so that we have, a better overall, a better understanding of this? I mean, for example, do we have to analyze the color palette, the placement of objects, or, I mean, any piece of information that could be given? Or someone mentioned, I guess, the angle of the camera itself, the way that it's like a bird eye view or a close shot and close up.
You have to, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to identify everything. The more expert you are on filmic techniques, the more you will be able to say about the angles, for instance, or the placement of the objects, of course. But you don't need to be an expert to identify metaphors, but the more expert that you are on filmic techniques, the better. You have to analyze all these things, but maybe not all these things, according to your level of expertise, imply a symbolic meaning. So maybe you don't need to refer to every single thing when you describe the abstract meaning. Unless you think that the placement of the bottle of the perfume means something.
Yeah,
In that case, yes.
Yes. And is there like any methodological way of looking at it? I mean, as you said, it depends on many cultural factors and also the level of expertise. Like if I don't, if it's not significant for me, then I wouldn't be looking for it. But, if there is, I don't know, sort of a methodology to refer to it, and so, okay, so I should look for this. I mean, how can we reach that point, or let's say move toward it?
That's a very interesting question. I wish I also had that methodology, but there is not. I guess searching and searching. For instance, cultural things, the colors. Searching if, for instance, if there will be the yellow color in somewhere, yellow color for us can mean, I don't know, spring and the bloom of flowers. And in China, it means death. So it is quite tricky sometimes. You have to look. The internet is there. I know thousands of places where you can find symbolism of everything. Pay attention to the sources as well. But yeah, I guess that you have to not only analyze, but when you have to describe the abstract meaning, in order to know what to consider or not, you have to carry out an in-depth search of those symbolisms, colors, angles, objects, the cases. I don't know. Yeah, that's really interesting and important. If you don't have an intercultural group, then you are on your own with your culture in your mind, and you have to have a lot of information out there to take all those things into account. But no, there's no methodology to do that. But that's very interesting. Maybe in the future we have to do something about that. I don't know how, but maybe a big database of all the cultures with all the single. That's very difficult to do, but yeah, very interesting.
Yes, and also like comparison of them, I mean, between culture, like cross-cultural, analysis of such things would be very interesting as well.
Yes.
And by the way, I had another question. So if we don't know, I mean, for example, you see how much the director or someone who has, made this ad was aware of such things. Is there any way of to reassure that, okay, this wasn't accidental and there was a meaning behind it, or it was just, sheer object that was there, and we are over philosophizing it, out of nothing.
Exactly. When we read an ancient poet, if that poet tried to say that meaning that we, the philosophic and all those kinds of meanings imply, do we read poetry as the poet was writing that poem? Who knows? Or the paintings. Yeah. Do we have all the abstract metaphors in the painting? Did the author of the painting directly and consciously did that thing to do a metaphor? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's something difficult to know. Yes, so we have Mr. Namozi. Yes, please.
Hello again. Thank you, Professor Mayer, for your categorized and practical speech and presentation, and also special thanks to Dr. Mercedes Moluti and Mr. Barzakertu. My first question is that I'm not sure whether you have read Forceville's 2024 article, which has been published in Metaphor and Symbol. If yes, I would honestly want you to know that what's your idea regarding that article, his recent criticism toward FILMIP, especially regarding the advertisements.
Yes, I've read it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. That's really interesting that you also read that article. Precisely, I have a chapter because I am writing a book for John Benjamin's about FILMIP, and I have a whole chapter devoted to responding to Charles Forceville about his criticism. I am looking for it to know. Yeah, this one. He to my view, I think that he confuses the identification with the analysis. So, as scientists, we must have a tool to identify not only metaphors, anything that we are analyzing or studying. And once we have that tool that says, yes, this is a metaphor, yes, or no, this is not, we can go on to the analysis and the cultural differences, and A is B, roses are lovers, magnum is gold or not. Okay, that is the analysis, but the identification should be empirical. That's my view. Also, the examples that he reports, I also discuss every single example that he reports in his article in the book that I am preparing, and all the metaphors that he mentions have been analyzed through Filmic, and yes, they are incongruous based. He says that in the movies that he analyzes, there is no incongruity, so the method that is based, in this case Filmic, on the identification of incongruity is a failure. However, all those metaphors have been identified with Filmic on the basis of incongruity. So that's my opinion on that. Yeah, it's a bit a tricky issue. Every time that I found him and meet him in conferences, he discusses every little thing that I say. But well, it's a formal discussion and we are friends, so yeah, but that's really interesting. I mean, in science, if we say something and everyone agrees, then what? I think that the discussion of topics only enrich us.
Thank you very much. Regardless of Forceville's criticism and whether you are accurately answering his criticism or not, but thank you for your logical kind of response, both to Forceville and to us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. I guess we have another question in the chat box. So do the metaphors use these stereotypes to be understood? Like, do they reinforce it or, yeah?
Okay. Stereotypes. Like in the case of the woman, maybe? Or...
Yeah,
I would really appreciate it if Mr. Rahnama would elaborate on his question, but
Yeah, because stereotypes are also dependent on culture. So I guess we should take into account those stereotypes in the case that we have them when we are describing everything and analyzing in order to be able to understand or identify a metaphor. If that is the question, then yes.
yes, I guess he would have meant that, like in advertisements, when we have a short limited time, we want it to be instantly recognizable, so we have to resort to some sort of stereotypes,
Yes.
for the audience. Yes.
Yeah.
Unlike
yeah, the
movies.
more exactly, the more powerful and concrete and direct we are and creative
Yes.
in 20 seconds, the better for the brand to sell the product. Yeah.
Yes, this session is being recorded and it will be available on our Telegram channel.
Okay. I hope Transformsville doesn't see it. But anyway, he will have to read my book someday in this coming year.
We can send him a copy if you want to.
Just a joke.
Okay. So I guess we don't have any questions. So
Okay.
yes.
I love the discussion part of the workshop. The first day, but also today.
It's interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess we don't, have another question. Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. So thanks everyone for being with us and joining the session. If you have any question or comments, you can type it or raise your hand. If not, we can finish those in the session.
Okay, you can also write me an email.
Yes, that's
I'm available.
So would you please type down your email in the chat box?
Yes.
I guess the audience has it, but yeah.
That's not it. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So thank you everyone and have a great weekend and stay tuned for the upcoming workshops. Yes, and thank you very much, Dr. Bortmir, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, my pleasure. Yes.
Take very good care.
Yes, take care and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. خیلی ممنون از همگی که تا اینجا همراه ما بودید. آدرس تلگرام انجمن رو میتونید توی چت باکس ببینید. DHC_Shirazi. ممنون از شما خواننده ها. لطف کرد. آخر هفته خوبی داشته باشید. خدا نگهدار همه.